Good afternoon. Oh, that was friendly. I'm Lynn Rosenthal, and I'm the White House Advisor on Violence Against Women. And it gives me tremendous pleasure to welcome all of you to the White House. Secretary Sebelius, thank you for joining us today. Senator Lautenberg, Mayor Landrieu, and of course my old friend, who many of you know from the front lines, Congresswoman Donna Edwards. Most of all, I want to thank all of you for being here today. You've come from big cities and small towns, from tribes, from law enforcement agencies, from women's groups, from fatherhood groups, and from faith communities. And you come together all in pursuit of a common purpose: to end violence against women. And you all know, as I do, that while we're enjoying this beautiful room today, somewhere in this city and all across this country, a woman is being beaten and her children are watching. And we are here today on behalf of that woman. And we are here today on behalf of those children. When President Obama signed the Tribal Law and Order Act last summer, he stood right here on this stage. And he stood with a woman named Lisa Ayotte, who was a survivor of a brutal rape. And as Lisa stood to tell her story, she began to cry. And the president came out on the stage and put his arm around her and comforted her as she told this story. And Lisa said to me later, "He's the one who got me through it." And when Vice President Biden travels around this country, everywhere he goes, and I've seen this, women come up to him and they whisper, "Thank you for what you've done to address domestic violence. Thank you for helping women like me." Because this commitment comes from the top, I have no doubt that the unprecedented efforts that you will hear about today will move us forward. Let this Domestic Violence Awareness Month mark a new beginning. Thank you. And I am honored to introduce now one of our greatest champions. When I first met Valerie Jarrett last summer, I knew that we had found the right leader at just the right time. Valerie is a senior advisor to President Obama, and she is the chair of the White House Council on Women and Girls. Please welcome Valerie Jarrett.
Thank you, Lynn. Good afternoon, everyone. You guys look terrific. Thank you for coming. It's so nice to send out an invitation and everybody comes. So I want to publicly thank Lynn for the wonderful job that she's doing, and it's a tribute, I think, to both President Obama and Vice President Biden that they chose someone like Lynn to lead this effort. Don't you guys agree? Lynn is someone who has come from the front lines and has devoted her life to ending violence against women. And so it's just a pleasure to have you as a part of this administration. As Lynn mentioned, I am chair of the White House Council on Women and Girls. And on behalf of our council, I want to thank all of you for being here with us today and for adding your voice to this incredibly important discussion. Also with me, who always likes to shy away, is the Executive Director of the White House Council on Women and Girls, Tina Chen. Tina, stand up. She always looks embarrassed when I do that, which is part of why I enjoy doing that. For almost 30 years, the month of October has been a time to renew our commitment to ending one of the most tragic and senseless crimes in the country. It's a time to remember the women who suffered in silence until it was too late. It's a time to reach out to our mothers, our sisters, our daughters, friends and neighbors who remain in the shadow, afraid or ashamed of the consequences if they come out and speak. And it's a time to think about the children who have witnessed abuse or been victims themselves. Children whose future health depends on overcoming the physical and the mental wounds that they have suffered. That's the problem we face, and that's why we're here today. And that's why so many of you who are in this room have been fighting for such a long time and so hard to make things right. And over the years, you have helped pass laws, you have raised funds, you've started hotlines, you've built shelters, and changed the hearts and minds of anyone who would listen. You stood with Vice President Biden in 1994 when he wrote the Violence Against Women Act, and he helped it become law. And thank him in absentia. He'll be here soon for that. You'll get another chance to thank him when he gets here. So together, you have brought domestic violence to the forefront. You've encouraged women everywhere to reach out for help, and you have saved countless lives along the way. I wish I could say that the story ends there, but as all of you know, it doesn't. Despite all the progress that we have made, domestic violence still plagues our homes, our communities, and our nation. 1 in 4 women will still experience domestic violence at some point in her lifetime. Women we know, women we love, and women who need the understanding that they are not alone. Issues like this one remind us that there is still work to be done if we're going to make the promise of America real for every American, including women. That's why last year, President Obama created the White House Council on Women and Girls. He gave the council an important mission to make sure that all federal agencies consider the needs of women in every policy, in every program, and in every piece of legislation that he supports. After all, as Madeleine Albright said once, responsibility for the advancement of women is not the job of any one agency, it's the job of all of them. Every corner of the federal government has responded to the President's charge. And that's why today we are able to highlight the unprecedented work being done across the administration to protect and support victims of domestic violence. After all, domestic violence is not just a women's issue, as we all know. It's an American issue. It's an issue that is so important about making sure that there is stability in our families, in our communities, and the strength of our nation. That's why, through the Council, our administration has identified 3 critical steps to address domestic violence. First, strengthening the legal system, helping victims gain financial independence, and breaking the cycle of domestic violence once and for all. We're already on our way to meeting this goal. We've built new partnerships across the federal agencies to combat violence against women. Just today, we held the first ever White House Roundtable on reducing sexual assault. And over the next 6 months, the Department of Justice, led under Attorney General Eric Holder, will hold regional forums across the country to engage communities and help put an end to this devastating problem. President Obama also passed the Affordable Care Act, which links pregnant women with domestic violence services, and it makes it easier for nurses and social workers and educators and other well-trained staff to intervene early. We joined the Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius. Kathleen, stand up, take a round of applause. We join our terrific secretary to help Head Start programs across the country identify and respond to children exposed to violence at home. And we worked with HHS to create grant programs to help children in domestic violence shelters heal from the trauma of abuse. And today I'm delighted to announce the creation of a National Advisory Committee on the Violence Against Women. This is a group of highly regarded experts who will help Attorney General Eric Holder and Secretary Sebelius identify the most effective ways to reach mothers and children who are experiencing violence at home. And I'd like to ask the committee members who are present today to stand so we can show our appreciation for the donation of your time and your expertise to this important issue. Please. I know we have a few here. Come on. Don't be shy. So this afternoon, you're going to be hearing more about all of us, including our commitment to break the cycle of domestic violence, because domestic violence truly is a cycle. It will keep going unless we do something to stop it. And it doesn't just affect women who are abused, but it also affects the children who witness it. And the damage they sustain can last far longer than the abuse itself. Victor Rivers knows something about this. Victor, could you stand for a moment? Thank you. I had an opportunity to meet Victor before we began today, and I learned that as a child, Victor watched his father beat his mother and his siblings repeatedly, and he was brutally abused himself. His brother Robert was born severely developmentally disabled, and he ultimately died as a direct result of the beatings his mother received while she was pregnant and that Victor witnessed firsthand. And when 12-year-old Victor went to the local police station for help, showing them the welts and the cuts that he had suffered, they sent him back home, saying it was a private family matter. And it wasn't until years later, at the age of 15, that Victor was able to break the cycle of abuse and leave home for good. And he told me that it was when he had a child of his own that he realized that the cycle was truly broken. And we are so appreciative that he is willing to speak out the way he is today. Because stories like Victor's are why we're here today. And that's why we want to thank you so much, because after years, that cycle broke and you are still speaking